I want to call this bridesmaid makeup, but this is actually probably what I would wear if I were a bride getting married again. I would do my own makeup. I did my own makeup when I first got married. I wore like chapstick and silver eyeshadow, and I think that's about it. So I wish I could do that over again. That's what I'm gonna do, is my makeup if I were getting married. Could be considered bride, could be considered bridesmaid, or really any fancy, like you need to dress up. I'm not one that is like too glam. I feel like for a wedding day, I would want to be like myself, just like turned up a couple notches so that it's like a little more glam for pictures and everything. So all that to say, this is what I would wear if I were getting married again. I would first make sure that my makeup was long lasting, transfer proof, so that it would stay all day. And the nice thing is the makeup that I use already does that. So I don't have to do any different types of techniques, or I don't have to use any different products that I'm not used to using. I know the products work with my skin. I know they last all day. I know they're not gonna come off when I'm like hugging a bunch of people and stuff like that. So I already used those types of products in the first place. So I can just use what I already normally use. And a lot of you actually use these same products as well. I'm gonna show you a couple different techniques to like glamming it up a notch for a special occasion. First thing is priming the skin. This is our silk primer, and a little bit goes a long way. You don't need a full pump. You just put it on the areas that you have issues. So anywhere that is larger pores, texture, fine lines and wrinkles. It's like spackle for your face. So anything you want to kind of smooth out and give like a nice smooth finish to for your makeup to go on top of. Primer is not required for this makeup to last, which is really cool. It kind of like melts into your skin. A big thing to note is you want to wear sunscreen, but you want to make sure that your sunscreen doesn't cause like a white cast or a flashback. I already have mine on because I use it during my skincare routine, but this Senegent sunscreen does not have a white cast. It's perfect for photos, and it creates a really nice base for your makeup to go on top of as well. While that primer is drying, I'm gonna go in and color correct. This is something that I do every single time I do my makeup anyway, so this isn't necessarily anything new. If you've watched my videos or my content for a while, you know that I do this. This is Oat Milk Shadow Sense that I'm using. It's a cream to powder eyeshadow, and it works really well in this area because it is crease proof, transfer proof, budge proof. It dries down to a powder finish so you can layer products over it really nicely, and it won't get like disrupted or like lifted up. Sometimes cream color correctors can be a little tricky because they can pick right up when you put concealer over top. So you have to like set them with a powder and all these things. So the nice thing about this is it is self-setting and you don't have to worry about your concealer picking it up. I use a small brush to apply it just in the areas that I need to color correct, and then use my finger to blend it out, or like a small brush that I can get in there and blend with. But it does an incredible job. I mean, look at that. I don't love a super full coverage. I'm the type that gives myself like a sheer to medium coverage, and then I'll use concealer in areas that I want a little bit more coverage. So I'm gonna actually still just use my tinted moisturizer for my face, but what I am gonna do is mix it with a little bit of powder, and this is going to give it slightly more coverage, and then it's also gonna make it more of a satin matte finish instead of a like really dewy glowy finish, because I want it to, again, last all day long, so I don't want any oils to kind of work to break it down, and this powder is going to work to combat that. I start by just putting it on my face. I'm going to use my fingers to spread it out, and this technique will also give you more coverage than if you were to just go in with a brush and start blending right away. Instead, spread it out over your skin and then let it start to like set and dry down before you blend it, and that'll give you even more coverage from the same product. That's one thing that I love teaching about these products that I use, is you can get different finishes and different results simply by switching up your technique, or like the way you mix a couple things together, instead of having to use, you know, a whole new product for more coverage. You can just do something a little differently and it'll give you more coverage. So you get more bang for your buck. You don't have to waste money on a bunch of different foundations for a bunch of different finishes. Just do a little bit of a different technique. I'm gonna let that kind of start to dry a little bit tinted moisturizer is starting to dry down. I can tell because when I fan myself, it's not as cool as it was before. So then I go into my powder, and this powder is so finely milled that it's not going to sit heavy or chunky or like cakey on the skin. I dip my foundation brush into my powder, so I get a little bit of powder on there, and then use this to stipple it in and blend it out. And the combination of having let it sit on my skin and then blending it with a powder, it just makes it like look airbrushed and flawless and gives great coverage without A, having to find a completely different product to use to give me that coverage that I want, B, giving like that heavy feeling that sometimes full coverage products can feel like. This is still very lightweight, comfortable on the skin. And you can also see I'm like pressing it into the skin. This is called a stippling motion, and this will give you the most coverage out of your product possible because it's like pressing it into the skin. You're not swirling it around, moving it around. You're also not picking it back up with like a sponge. Sponges can be great, but they also can waste a lot of product, and I don't like to do that. All right, so there's my base on. It gives me more coverage than I have on a daily basis just using tinted moisturizer and like blending it with my brush. And I use these two products on a regular basis anyway. I usually do tinted moisturizer first and then top it with powder. So today I mixed them and got a different result with the same products that I already have in my makeup bag. Love it. Save you money. Next, I'm gonna go in with my brow gel and do my brows the same way I always do. I have a separate video. I'll link it in the comments below. But I always do my clear brow gel first. Once it's completely dry, then I fill them in with my brown pencil liner, something that's gonna last all day and won't budge. And then I top it with a tinted brow gel so that it matches my red hair a little bit better. So let me do that real quick and I'll be right back. Brows are done. Now I gotta add some color back into my face. This is lip volumizer, and I pretty much have it on my lips constantly. It helps to hydrate, like deeply hydrate from within. So I usually do it at the beginning of my makeup routine, and then by the time I put my lip color on, it's like helped to hydrate my lips. Let's do some colors. So I am going to, first I'm gonna take the light concealer and do just a tiny bit on my ring fingers, rub them together, and then just press it over this little area. You can kind of see where I need the most coverage. And then I'm doing the same technique that I did with my face. I actually started doing that technique with my under eyes, and then I was like, wait, why don't I try this on my face? Like if it works on my under eyes, it should work on my face. So I apply it and then I let it sit and start to dry down before I blend it out. And that gives you the most coverage with the least amount of product, which will result in less creasing. So a win there, because we don't want creasing under eyes. So while that is drying down, I'm gonna use bronzer. I'm gonna add some color back to my face. This is the tinted moisturizer actually in the shade Deep. And I just love it for bronzer because it's really user-friendly, really easy to use. It's the same product that's on my face, and so I know it's going to blend nicely into the skin already. So I'm using it on an F05 brush. I just pick it up off of the lid, and then I usually pinch my brush to apply it on my actual cheekbones, not underneath, but on. And applying it higher helps to lift the face. And then blend it back into the hairline. Color, done. You can also go back in with your foundation brush and just like clean up any of that might have like sunk down, because a lifted face is what we want. All right, under eyes have had some time to dry down. I'm gonna use my F64 concealer brush and press, not sweep, not pull and tug, press it up and blend it out. I usually take a little bit on the lids. One thing to note, this is my concealer. So this is going to cover the darkness under my eyes. That is my biggest issue under my eyes, and it's a lot of people's biggest issue as well. So we used the Oat Milk Shadow Sense to color correct, and then did the concealer to bring it back to my skin color. So the oat milk kind of neutralized the darkness, but it did look a little orange. So then we used concealer over top to make it all the same color. I don't use something that's too bright under the eyes to conceal. If I want brighter under eyes, which I may do in this video, then I would go in with an even lighter concealer and place it specifically. And that's something that I've grown into because I used to do the whole trend of the super bright under eye area, and it just did not work for me. I did not like how it looked with it, especially in pictures. I think it looks a lot more natural and just like kind of naturally glam to have a under eye that is closer to the rest of your skin tone and then strategically brighten versus an entire under eye of super bright concealer. Hopefully that makes sense. That is blended. In a lot of makeup tutorials, you see people doing the eyes first and then the face makeup. And the main reason for that is a lot of makeup artists use powder eyeshadows that can tend to have fallout on the face. So then you can clean that up and go in with your face makeup after. But I use all cream eyeshadows. I don't have fallout issues. So I'm gonna start with this shade called Natural Tan. It's just a mid-tone brown shade on a big fluffy brush. And I am going to work that into what I call the transition area, crease area. This is just gonna frame the eye, and it also kind of gives like a base for me to work from. It kind of helps to conceal any like veins or redness in the lid, so you can see I'm kind of taking it down onto the lid, but more so focusing it on, it's on my actual brow bone. So if I were to apply it in the crease and then I open my eyes, it's gonna be hidden. So putting it up higher on the actual brow bone, and you'll notice my eyes are open. So while my eyes are open on the brow bone, and that's going to frame the eyes really nicely, kind of like a picture frame, frames a picture. And it helps keep, you know, whatever's inside of it contained. It just frames it and brings attention to it. And that's what we're doing here with this color, is framing the eye and kind of giving a border to work within. I also take a little bit under my lower lash line, and this is for a few reasons. It frames it, but also underneath your eyes is where a lot of small fine lines, wrinkles can start to form, and it's much easier to camouflage those with a darker shade than trying to hide them with a brighter shade. That's not gonna work. A bright shade's gonna draw attention to them. So we camouflage them with a darker shade and kind of make them look like sunken backwards a little bit. Optical illusion that we're creating here. All right, next I'm gonna go in with a darker shade. This shade is called Hot Chocolate, and it's one of my favorite shades ever. This was launched in a mini holiday collection a couple years ago, and I have been like scraping at the tube to use it. It's one of the few shades that's discontinued, but I still use. They actually just launched it in a full size. It is limited edition, but I'm hoping that they bring it back as permanent. This is what I'm gonna use on my outer corners to create depth and definition. So I'm using it on a really tiny brush. This is an E30 brush. Picking it up off the wand and then kind of making that little like outer V shape. So this is going to mimic the same shape as what I did with the Natural Tan, but not as big. It's not going to take up as much space. It's kind of like those Russian stacking dolls where it gets smaller. A little along the lower lash line, bring it out here and here, but I'm not taking it all the way in or all the way high. So use my finger to blend that out a little bit. So you can see the placement of this. It's kind of like a V here and then a little bit of a drag. So it's like a, I don't know, backwards E almost. Then I'm taking my Natural Tan brush and using that to just blend this edge out to make sure it's nice and seamless. So you can kind of just work into it and build up. It's always easier to add more than it is to take away. And so start with less and build up, add more. If you're finding that you have a hard time blending eyeshadows or that the colors just kind of muddle together and make like a muddy mess, take a look at the size of your eyeshadow brushes. This is teeny. It's a very small brush, but it works to be very precise in application. And then I use my finger to soften the edges, or you could also use a brush to soften the edges. But I'm telling you, like going in with something like this size to try to do this outer corner area, that's where you're just gonna have the color be all blown out and it's not going to be precise and it's going to be like a muddied mess. And so if you're struggling with blending and you're struggling with your shades looking like separate from one another, try using smaller brushes. You'll notice that I didn't put concealer on this outer edge, and this is why, because even though these shadows don't have fallout, I still end up blending them a little lower with my brush, and so I want to make sure that I'm not putting too much product on that outer edge when I do my cleanup, so it's just easier to just not put concealer there at all and then go back in and clean it up afterwards. And just a little bit. Lid color. Lid color, I like to have a little bit darker when I want it to be more glam, but I'm not going for like too dark and smoky. This is a limited edition shade that I love so much, and I really hope that they make it permanent. It's called Toasted Shimmer, and it is so gorgeous. And I use it on a small fluffy brush because I don't want it to be like too metallic-y. So I'm just using a fluffy brush to get a little bit of that shimmer. And I start on the center, because wherever you put your brush down first, that's where the most pigment is going to be. So I start there on the center, and then kind of work my way inwards. And on the inner portion of my lid, I'm going to use Sandstone Pearl Shimmer. And if you've watched me for a while, you know that I love Sandstone Pearl Shimmer, and a lot of times I would just put Sandstone Pearl Shimmer all over the lid and call it good. But I like that the depth of the Toasted Shimmer just makes it look a little more glam. Eyeliner, I'm going to use the Onyx Shadow Sense. It's a black cream to powder eyeshadow. And just do my standard eyeliner. I think I have an eyeliner tutorial on here, but if I don't, I can make one. Just a little baby wing. I'm going to use another little pencil brush and kind of blur and blend out the top portion of that, so it gives like a little more depth in this outer corner. I used to be all about like the strong winged cat eye eyeliner, and now I've kind of gone into the route of like, I want it a little softer, a little blended. I don't want it to look like stamped on, but just like it's like a natural flow of the eye look. Which I also feel like this is such an easy, a much easier way to do eyeliner too, is to have that smoky, kind of subtle baby wing. You don't have to have this perfect cat eye. Curl my lashes. Now, if I were actually getting married, or this was like an actual event, I would probably put on the Senegence false lashes. They have some false lashes, but for the purpose of this video and the fact that I am just going to school pickup after this, I am not going to be putting on fake lashes. But I would if this were real life. A little bit of primer, so that I can have the most dramatic glam lashes that I want. This is another product that I like to let dry. So while it's drying, I'm going to go back into my concealer with my concealer brush and just press it all out again. And what this is doing is actually just picking up any excess that might have like moved and settled into any fine lines that I have. And that's totally normal. So I'm just picking that back up again, and now we're gonna finish with some powder. Same powder that I mixed into my tinted moisturizer. Picking it up on a puff, pressing it in. Now my concealer has already set. That's a really important thing to note, is that my concealer is already set. I'm not pressing this powder in to force the concealer to set. This concealer is a self-setting concealer, which is amazing because that means that once it's set, it's not going to budge, it's not going to crack or crease or settle into your fine lines, which is amazing for a long-lasting product when we need it to last all day. Now I'm going to use this powder in all the areas that I just want extra like brightness, because it's a white powder, so it kind of brightens a little bit. And then that I like need my makeup to stay too, just extra protection. But if you put powder into a wet concealer and force it to dry and like force it to set before it's ready, especially if it's a self-setting concealer. Non-self-setting concealers typically need a powder to set, but this one is self-setting, and so if you force it to set too quickly, it's gonna harden before it has a chance to kind of melt with the skin. It's gonna harden and create kind of like a cast on top of your skin, so that when your skin underneath moves, which it will, it does, like your eyes move a ton, it's going to break apart, and that's where you're gonna get like that weird kind of cracking and creasing results from. So let your concealer set before you powder. Now let's brush this powder off, just using a fluffy brush to brush it all away. It's like a baby baking. Like, it's not like a full bake, but we did a little bit of baking, and it's gonna help to kind of brighten too. I'm not gonna use a lighter concealer to brighten. I just don't think I need that. Now I'm gonna do my blush. I'm going to use this is actually a lip color. It's Bella Hydra Matte, and I love it for blush. It's such a pretty, like, just rosy, pinky shade. I'm actually probably gonna use it on my lips too. And I start farther back, because wherever you put your brush down, that's where the most product is gonna be, and so you don't wanna go center the face and have it be hard to blend. And then work my way forward. I like a little on the nose. Have you guys tried the ombre blush trend? I'm gonna take a little bit of chilled pink. It's just a lighter pink shade. And I'm going to use this more towards the front, just to kind of give it that flushed, rosier effect. Blending the edges, make it all nice and seamless. And then I always do this, but especially when I've got powder all over my face, is I'll take the medium powder and go over where I used my bronzer to just bring a little more life back, and then it also kind of helps melt like the bronzer and blush together. Especially where I use that white powder like all over my face, it can feel a little light, especially down here, so I'm just adding a little bit more color. All right, last thing before I do mascara is I need to brighten up the inner corners. So this is Snow Shadow Sense on a small domed brush. This is the E31. This is the Champagne Glowify stick. It's like an eyeshadow stick, kind of crayon thing. And this works as a really beautiful, like a balmy highlight. So I'm gonna put this on the tip of my nose and the bridge of my nose, Cupid's bow. I'm actually not gonna highlight my cheekbones because I am going to use this moisture mist, illuminating moisture mist. This is the Bronze Glowify mist. And normally I would spray this on all the areas that are showing. So if you have like a strapless dress or like a tank top, put it on your shoulders, but we're just doing the face today. So this will be enough glow on my cheekbones that I don't feel like I need cheekbone highlight. Now that that's done, let me finish with mascara. I like to do that before I do mascara. I don't want my mascara to like come off. This is the Black Volume Intense Mascara. I always have two mascaras. I have one that's more dried out and then another one that's newer and wetter. And so I always do the newer, wetter one first and then finish with the more dried out one. And this kind of just like shapes the lashes back into place. I don't know, the like combo of the two slightly different formulas makes a huge difference. And then when the drier one is run out, I'll replace it with a wetter one, and this wetter one becomes the drier one. You know, see that cycle? I need to finish with, not finish, I keep saying finish, but this is a long video. This is a long video. When you're getting glam, it's okay to be long, right? To be extra. These little brush picks are the bomb for declumping your lashes. Black eyeliner pencil in the upper waterline. And then I'm gonna do a little down here, just on the outer edge. I don't wear bottom mascara much, but when I do, it's always black, brown, waterproof. Look at the difference that makes. it feels like a lot of makeup. It's like I could be wearing no makeup at all and then I put bottom mascara on and it's like, boom, you're glam. It's just because I don't wear it very much. All right, last up is lips. So I said Bella, and that's what I'm gonna do. Bella is such a staple. Bella Hydra Matte. Actually, if I were truly getting married, no, I'd still probably do Bella. I don't know, that's gonna depend. For me, the Hydra Mattes stay on me all day, so I have no problem wearing the Hydra Mattes all day. You might wanna test out your wedding lip color for a bit before to know what's gonna last best on you. It may be Lip Sense and it may be Hydra Matte. So this is Bella. You don't need a lip liner because it doesn't bleed. But if you want more like definition and stuff, you can add a lip liner. Like this is a wedding color. I feel like this is like the perfect mid-tone, like it's darker than my natural lip color, but it's not too dark, it's not too red, it's not too pink, it's not too brown, like it's perfection. This is what I would wear. I would actually, truthfully, add a tiny bit of gloss in the center. This is not gonna transfer off. You can kiss in pictures and everything, it's not gonna come off. But throughout the day, it may not be the longest lasting. However, it is very easy to touch up. So that's where I said it's like up to you to decide if you want actual lip sense that's gonna like be budge proof completely all day long, or if you wanna go with something a little more subtle and easier too. This is the look. Should I do my hair really quick? Threw a couple curls into my hair. This is not the hair or the fit that I would wear on a wedding day, so let's just focus on the makeup here, but I love it. This is definitely something that I would wear. It's obviously not like super glammed up that like you see all over Pinterest and stuff, but it is way more my style, and I feel like it's very achievable for those of you looking to do your own makeup for a special occasion, whether that be like a wedding day, you're doing your own wedding makeup, or a bridesmaid, or family pictures, or some type of special event or something. I feel like this makeup is very easily achievable. It's not too hard, it's not too fancy, but just a couple little tips that help take it up a notch from your normal everyday routine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and everything will be linked in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next video.